Moriden Athluan.
Every tale has its dark side, my friends. Even so noble a hero as Moriden did not always help the people.
Do not take this as truth, but there are rumors that he worked for a time for the Thieves Guild of Skyrim.
So sorry to miss the beginning of the evening tale, my friend. What did I miss?
Though none alive would dare to besmirch Moriden's name, the rumors persist. Some claim that he finally fell to greed and avarice. Others, that he was forced into serving their desires.
Oh. Well, of course it would be this part. Should have realized. Not like there's a great deal of my story left to tell.
Despite what seems evidence that cannot be explained away, yet others claim that Moriden became one of the greatest of thieves, not for personal gain, but to once again save the people of Skyrim from the darkest of horrors.
Oh, that's rich. The darkest of horrors. Seriously. The only thing I saved anyone from during that time of my life was the burden of a full purse. The rumors, I'm afraid, are true, my friend.
So, though they are only the darkest of slander, dear listeners, gather round once more and hear the tale of the greatest of thieves.
For it to be slander, it would have to be intentionally wrong. Much of this tale is right, but they won't give you the details. You know how much I enjoy a good tale in a good tavern. So let me save you the pain of listening to the drivel. Far enough from the rest of the people here that I can tell you how it really happened, because the truth of it... The truth is not what the bards would have you believe. Second Seed, 4th Era 202. I turned in my current round of work, but not before Delvin had a special job for me, fresh out of Solitude. Though Delvin went out of his way not to give too much about the man I'm meeting, I know him. It's hard not to, given my Thane status there. I know all of the other Thanes, though not well. But the one I'll be meeting? Well... I wouldn't much care if Eriker ended up dead, but Delvin is right that having him there will be a substantial help to the guild. Not that I'm not, but I'm too much of a wanderer, whereas Eriker is tucked in tight with the locals. Rather than take another bunch of jobs elsewhere, I'll head straight back for the city, with a stop-off in the college once again, hopefully for the last time. Unfortunately, there is still nothing from Brynjolf's contacts. I'm starting to think I might look into it myself soon. Arniel had a small experiment set up when I arrived, and when he saw the dagger I brought him, he launched into another tirade. This time it was about how the dagger hadn't been shipped properly and how dangerous it was to even handle the weapon, which was about the time he realized that I had been handling it and I was perfectly fine. That quickly fell behind, however, as he was quite keen to get on with his work. Finally, I got an explanation. This dagger is called keening, and is one of a 2-item set along with Sunder. These were tools used by the Dwemer tonal architects, whatever that means, and he believes that by using keening and the warped soul stone I helped create, he can begin to recreate the events that led to the Dwemer vanishing. All he had to do was hit the soul stone with the dagger, which he did. Twice. With no effect. Then he hit it a 3rd time, and, he might have been successful in his experiment. Arniel has vanished completely. The dagger keening on the ground left behind. I picked it up and moved on. The college might be a little quieter now without Arniel's complaints. On to Solitude, I suppose. I'm betting Aryan would love to have this dagger in our collection. I cornered Erica and introduced myself as the guild's representative. I've been out of Solitude enough, and wearing gear that usually covered my face, that he didn't recognize me, which is likely for the best. The job he proposed is simple enough. The captain of a ship called the Dainty Slode has been reluctant to honor a trade agreement with Erica. He doesn't say it flat out, but I suspect some smuggling, among other things. That being the case, he's going to have me pull a shill job on the captain. Nearby is another ship, the Red Wave. She's a pirate, from all tales, and the ship has something very valuable and very illegal on board. At least 1 bottle of Balmora Blue, the nastier and more expensive version of skooma. I am to board the Wave, take a bottle, or 2 if they have a second, I can see it displayed in the museum somewhere discreet, and plant it on board the Slode. When he told me where the Slode was anchored, I almost laughed. He was right that the captain was ashore. I've been aboard the ship in question. If they haven't found more crewmen, that ship is going to be very easy to plant the evidence in, considering I killed the entire crew just a bit less than a week ago. The Red Wave, however, will be another thing entirely. I returned to the safe house to give me an alibi for the evening. Once I was publicly seen turning in for the evening, I made use of a secret entrance, which, thinking about it, Aryan almost has to know about, to exit the building. I was in my full Thieves Guild armor, having left behind my usual armor, to further make it unlikely that anyone who saw me would connect me to the new Thane of Hafengar. The Red Wave was far easier to get aboard and rob than I had anticipated. Most of the crew was ashore, leaving a lone watch on the main deck. I stole the 2 keys she had on her, then snuck below decks, where there was only a single soul. They never saw me, of course, and I made my way to the safe on board to find it empty. Well, mostly empty. There was a note to Sabine, I am assuming one of the crew, mentioning that the Balmora Blue had been moved to a temporary location in a chest beneath the ship for safekeeping until it was sold. After making my way back topside, I slipped over the side of the ship and found the chest. Now to make my way to the Slode, which I expect to be as easily dealt with as the Red Wave was. 10 Second Seed, 4th Era, 202. I woke this morning and, on my way out to find Erica, I was stopped by Aryan. News of what we discovered at the Temple of Trinimac and the events that followed has been getting around, it seems, and there was a meeting of the Jarls at the Blue Palace yesterday. At this meeting, they agreed, unanimously, no less, that the Explorers Guild at large, and me in particular, were deserving of a formal thanks of some kind. After the guild took a small portion of that thanks for itself, the thank you totaled 20,000 septums. Not bad, though I've several times that amount just in my own personal treasury. Then again, considering how much of their hold treasury must be tied up in repairs and the like from the wars, I suppose it really is a decent sum. I waited outside Erica's door until he left for the palace, because of course he would be heading for the palace as soon as he could. The news I brought him, he had already gotten. The guard had raided the Sload in the early morning hours, and they had been confused at their findings. Yes, the Balmora Blue was there, but so were the bodies of almost all of Captain Vold's crew. They weren't sure if they killed themselves or if Vold had something to do with it, but either way, the good captain is now out of the picture, to Erica's delight. I am to inform Delvin that Erica will help to reopen any doors that the guild might need in Solitude. And so with my business concluded here, back to Riften I went. At the flagon, there was still nothing to follow up on concerning Goldenglow. Brynjolf's leads apparently didn't pan out, which has left us high and dry. I begin to worry that there won't be anything to follow at all. Perhaps that will just be the way it is. I had to remind myself that I'm not really here for the guild itself, though, well, I suppose I can admit that I am finding this new profession somewhat exhilarating. But no, I am not here for the guild. I'm here to find traces of Nocturnal. That is what I have to keep in mind. So far, my work here has done plenty to start reviving the guild's confidence. Merchants of somewhat dubious quality are starting to come back to the flagon. The jobs are starting to come in more frequently, and the entire demeanor of the guild is starting to change. Best to keep that going. If Nocturnal is involved in the guild, and I have to believe she is, then turning this all around has to catch her attention. With that in mind, my next stop will be in Whiterun for another small crime spree. I'll make the trip tomorrow, and by the time I arrive, there should be time to scout out a few locations. 11 Second Seed, 4th Era, 202. I had a series of dreams last night. Perhaps it was a nightmare, I don't know. But over and over again I would wake up in Honeyside, walk out into the pre-dawn light of the city, then begin to ride. I would pass near Goldenglow Estate, and then darkness. Then, again, I would wake at Honeyside, and the process would repeat itself. I'm not sure what, if anything, it means. But I'm not going to dwell on it. Although when I did wake up, I did walk into a thunderstorm over Riften as I had in that dream time after time. Maybe dreams just foretell the weather now. The ride to Riften was, despite my dream, uneventful. I checked in with Aella and the companions. The brothers were not there at the time. They were off to rid themselves of the beast blood using the 2 Glenmoral witch heads I'd left for them. Otherwise, there was nothing of note there. So I left for Dragon's Reach, where I now knew the Jarl had one of the stones of Baron Zaya in his own quarters. After talking to him briefly to inform him that I had taken over as the Harbinger, something I should have done some time ago, honestly, I took a quick look around his rooms and found the stone. He'll never miss it. Nobody seems to miss these at all. A few hours of larceny, only one act of which was remotely challenging, that of pickpocketing something from Ysolda, which was difficult only in that she spends most of her time in the marketplace, in front of pretty much the entire population. I made a final theft from the Whiterun stables and then departed the city, heading back to Riften. Another visit or two to the city may be in the future, I think. This is a stronghold full of strong people. I doubt that a single run of theft will do much to open doors to the guild here. Strangely, I find myself proud of that. As though I were really one of the city's people and not... I don't know what I am, I suppose. Morrowind is not my home, but neither is any city here in Skyrim. Perhaps Solitude comes closest, but only because of the museum. Perhaps part of my feeling as though I do not belong is not just some hang-up from being a beggar most of my life. Perhaps it has to do with this vague destiny. No use thinking on it now. Until I can find Nocturnal, none of this matters. I'm not sure why I trust Ithelia's words so much, but I just feel that she knows the truth of things somehow. I had barely reported my success in Whiterun when Brynjolf pulled me aside. At first I'd thought it had something to do with Goldenglow, but no. No, this would be something far more dangerous. Maven has asked for me. By name. This presents a small problem. The two of us have an understanding. I stay out of her way, she doesn't try to have me killed. She wouldn't be successful, and I think she knows that, but we maintain the fiction. With me now a part of the guild, however, it could be argued that I now was getting into her business. This meeting could just also be standard guild business, which I devoutly hope for her potential agent's sake. I don't want to have to kill them, and I imagine they don't want to die. The conversation with Maven was mercifully short, and, fortunately for any of her future agents, purely business after all. She gave me about nothing in the way of details, only who I was to contact and where. She is sending me to Whiterun, and from the sound of it, this feels like some kind of personal thing, not related to Riften as a whole or the guild in particular, just her. Fine, I can deal with that. And since I'll be heading there anyhow, I may as well head back to the Flagon and pick up a few more jobs for Whiterun as well. No sense in just dealing with the one thing without the others. No way I'm heading back there today, though. Mountain passes in the night hours are not high on my list of enjoyable activities. Though my meeting with Maven had been short, it was apparently long enough that more word came in from Whiterun. I was wrong this afternoon. All it took was a single round of larceny to make the city begin to open up. What I hadn't expected was that the one who would contact us would be from one of the most powerful families in the city. No, that's not right. Let me rephrase. I didn't expect it would be from the patriarch of one of the most powerful families in the city. Ulfred Battleborn needs a job done, and has promised help in re-establishing the guild in Whiterun as payment. I will need to keep my face down for this one. Battleborn and I haven't met often, but the times we did would likely stick out in his memory. I never anticipated this kind of care being needed back then. Now I'll just have to mind my words and be very careful around him. 12-second seed, 4th era, 202. Malus Marcius is one of the least pleasant little rodents I've ever been forced to deal with. He is an employee of Honningbrew Meadery, just on the outskirts of Whiterun, and he and Maven have worked out a deal that will get Maven control of her one real rival in the mead business in Skyrim, and gets him the ability to run that meadery so he will be set for life. The fact that he is getting a bit of revenge out of it is a bonus, but given that Malus thinks himself the wronged party, when he was the one who borrowed from Sabjorn and is being allowed to work off the debt, well, I doubt he's being worked as hard as he believes he is. That, however, is not my problem. I'm here to do a job. I considered briefly trying to spike this deal, to leave Maven high and dry, but the guild still needs her for the moment. I hate helping her any more than I need to, but sometimes you do what is needed. The plan requires me to do a good deed, to offer to clear the meadery of its pest problem. I do that kind of work almost routinely anymore, so I won't even have to hide who I am for that. Before embarking on the meadery job, I stopped in to speak to Ulfred. This job will actually be simplicity, though he didn't know that. The short version is that an old shield brother of his, whose name I shall not use for reasons that will be apparent shortly, was on the run from Solitude. He had committed a crime there, one whose punishment merited execution. Given the fate of a gate guard there some months ago, I'm not entirely sure that they have what you might call equitable punishments in that city. Ulfred's friend fled here, to Whiterun, and was promptly picked up and imprisoned for a minor theft. Fortunately, nobody here knows who this man really is, nor do they know about the judgment in Solitude. Yet. This is where I come into the picture. Ulfred knows that a letter to the Jarl has arrived that details his friend's crimes. Additional to that, the steward keeps a record of all prisoners. Since, according to Ulfred, nobody is allowed in the Jarl's personal quarters, nor the steward's, he needs a professional to make the letter disappear and to change the name in the registry. What he doesn't know is that I am actually one of the only ones who is allowed into both of those areas, but because Ulfred doesn't realize who I am, he wouldn't know that this will be almost literally a walk-in, walk-out job. I made visits over the next hour to the homes of several citizens of the city, relieving them of various valuables. From there, I took my trip up to Dragon's Reach and visited the Jarl's rooms. The letter was on his desk, freshly delivered. A quick read told me a great deal. Murder was the crime, and that I couldn't really argue the sentence for. My question was more about how this murder had come about, but again, that wasn't my problem or concern. That letter collected, I went to the steward's room and changed the name in the registry to the most ridiculous name I could come up with. Idobo Namai. Sounds sort of Redguardish, and I doubt anyone will ever try to read it backwards. And if they do, well, by then this man will be well out of anyone's reach. I saw Ulfred seated at the Jarl's tables on my way out. It was a momentary and quiet discussion, but in case anyone might be able to hear, I passed on the message that a friend of his had dealt with his legal troubles and was looking forward to visiting. Ulfred smiled, a sight I hope never to see again, and told me to pass on his thanks to Delvin. Though Whiterun does not know it, it now has 2 of its thanes working for the Thieves Guild. The poor city doesn't stand much of a chance, I suppose. The guild's influence expands, yet again, and will do so even more when I take care of the Honningbrew meadery job as well. It was there that I walked next. Once again, I was wrong. Something I am not used to being. Malice's read on Sabjorn's purposes in lending him the money, and then basically using him as slave labor, was spot on, as it turned out. I no longer had any objections to what I was here to do, so offered to do the job and was handed the poison I would need to pour into the vats when I got to them. According to Malice, the main building and the brewery building are connected by an underground passage. I'll have to deal with the actual pests as I go, but I seriously doubt that they are any real threat. The trouble Sabjorn had was in no way as simple as he had thought, or that Malice had thought, for that matter, or rather, the scale of their problem was greater than they had believed. The Skeevers all had known about, but more on them in a moment. In addition to them, there was also a sizable nest of frostbite spiders, which took a good deal of time to squish in an appropriate manner. Then there was the sad, insane Skeever breeder that was hiding down here. His name is, well, unimportant, now that he's dead, but he had his own revenge in progress. I'm not sure exactly how it was supposed to happen, but his journal made it clear that he was going to somehow destroy both Whiterun and Winterhold using an army of Skeevers. Some things you just can't make up. Now that the pests and the apocalypse they represented, sort of, were dealt with, I made my way to the vats, dumped about half the poison that Malice wanted into the vats, not wanting to kill Caius. I've worked with him too much to want to see him dead, and then made for the brewery hall to watch the festivities. The former owner of the Honningbrew Meadery is now in prison, and Malice is now in charge of Blackbriar West, as intended. That, however, just became a far less important thing than we had realized it would be. Maven had wanted to know how Honningbrew had suddenly become so much more of a player in the mead field, and I just found out how. Goldenglow. It all comes back to Goldenglow. There was a note in Sabion's dresser detailing the deal between him and a silent partner, in which he would produce as much mead as he could, and the partner, who still remains nameless, would do everything they could to keep Maven and her cronies, the guild, I assume, off of his case. The symbol at the top of the letter is the same as the one detailing the sale of Goldenglow Estates. Maven will be very interested to hear about this, as will, no doubt, Brynjolf and Mercer. I'd thought to stay here in Whiterun tonight, but this news? This merits quick action. This wasn't random. This is an attack on either Maven or the guild itself. If the former, then whatever. I hope they succeed eventually. If the latter, then we need more than ever to find out who this person is, why they are attacking the guild, and what we will do about it. Despite the late hour, the Jarl was waiting for my return. The woman's emotions apparently run from almost annoyed all the way to enraged, and hearing that the job was done put her at that highest of levels. I also showed her the letter, and she tolerated a brief explanation of where I had seen it before. She gave me my payment, then told me to do what I was already planning to do. Get the guild involved and find out what this symbol meant. Ducking below the city and into the guild headquarters, I woke Brynjolf and explained the entire situation again. He was as troubled as I was, but we still have nothing new to work from. He plans to go to Mercer first thing in the morning and try to get him to bring the guild's resources, now significantly enlarged, thanks to my efforts, to bear on the situation. In the meantime, I am to continue the crime sprees under the direction of Delvin and Vex.